I'm Natalia Bonner. Welcome back. All right, recently I finished sharing my process of machine quilting the 9 Patch Along 3.0. So that's a free stitch along. You can still join it at any time. But in that stitch along, I teach you how to machine quilt 12 9-patch quilt blocks using my machine quilting rulers. It's a really fun stitch along and a great way to improve your machine quilting skills with rulers. You can find all the details for this free stitch along over on our website, peaceandquilt.com. Now, as I shared those videos, I actually quilted a second version of the 9-patch along quilt. And on this second version, I have some bonus blocks down at the bottom of my quilt. So I thought, what better place to play around with some free motion quilting? So today I'm going to be sharing 4 fun flowers that you can free motion quilt in quilt blocks. Let's hop over to our machines and let's get stitching. Okay, so here is my 9-patch long 3.0 version 2 after I have all my machine quilting complete. I had so much fun with this stitch along. Like I mentioned in the intro, you can still join the 9-patch along, the 9-patch along 2.0 or 3.0 over on our website, peaceandquilt.com. As I got to the bottom of my 9-patch along quilt, I thought it would be really fun to play around with free motion quilting. So in these bottom bonus blocks, I'm going to share how to machine quilt some fun flower designs. So today let's focus on this red flower. On this flower, I'll start out using my mini 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler, and I'm going to quilt across the corner a simple point-to-point curve. Then, after I quilt that curve, I'm going to add some flower petals around the outside of that curve and also on the inside, so starting out with some bigger flower petals and then some smaller flower petals. From there, I'll fill in the inside of that curve with pebbles. So a fun way to use ruler work and free motion quilting. Now, you could complete this block by leaving it like that, adding echoes, but I thought it would be fun to add another flower. So I started out the same way, used my mini 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler, stitch that first curve, then start adding pebbles and the petals. Once I quilt that flower, now I'm going to fill in the rest of my background area with echoes. I always say echoing is your friend. It's a fun way to define spaces, but also kind of just finish off a quilt block. So echo through the open spaces, and I've got an adorable flower quilt block. Let's move on to the next block. This fun block kind of reminds me of like a daisy, a really simple design, but it's so much fun to quilt out and turns out so cute. I'll start out this block by stitching in the ditch all the way around the outside. Once I've done that, now starting down on the bottom side of my block, I'm going to stitch a straight line about 3/4 of the way up my block. When I get to that point, then I'm going to stitch a few ovals, creating the base of my flower. Once I've done that, now I'm going to stitch some petals around the bottom side. So I want these just to be kind of like half daisies. I'll stitch those petals, and then from there, as I'm stitching my way back down my spine, I'm going to add in a flower. I'm going to repeat this process as I work my way across my block, but notice how I'm going to alternate the height. I want them to be different heights. I think that creates more interest, but I also want some of them to have a few petals and some of them to have a lot. I think if you can make them kind of random, overall you'll end up with a better result. I love this fun block. Let's move on to the next. I'll start out this block by stitching in the ditch all the way around the outside. Once I've done that, now I'm going to stitch a curved spine about halfway up the block. At that point, then I'm going to stitch a circle for the center of my flower. After I've stitched my circle, then I'm going to add petals, kind of random in size around the outside of that circle. When I get back to the center, then I am going to fill in the center with a swirl design. Now from there, I'll travel back down my spine and I'm going to add a feather or a leaf just on one side of that flower spine. Once I have that complete, then I'm going to start filling in with echoes. So as I'm quilting these echoes, I'm not necessarily measuring my space, but because I do have a ruler foot here on my machine, I kind of glide the side of my foot right along the outside of my flowers, which helps me get about 1/4 of an inch spacing between my echoes. I love how this block turned out. Such drama or interest comes to life with all of those echoes. This was such a fun block, but let's move on to the next. After all that detail on the last block, I thought it would be fun to do something a little bit more simplistic. On this block, I'm going to start out by stitching in the ditch around the outside of the block. Then from there, travel across the bottom of my block about maybe 1/4 of the way. At that point, I'll stitch a simple spine. I'll stitch up to about halfway through my block, and then I'm going to stitch just a few loops, creating kind of a flower. It's not perfect, it's simple, it's whimsical, but it creates such an adorable flower and is fun to quilt. I've loved these flower designs. I hope you've all found just a little bit of inspiration. Don't forget to go check out the 9 Patch Along 3.0 plus my brand new class, Visual Guide to Machine Quilting Quilt Blocks, over on our website, peaceandquilt.com.